Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Shanna. So glad you're here. Now, tonight we're playing along with Craft Roulette, and I've got this vintage Amore paper pack that I'm going to be using for this card. The elements on the roulette for this week are card with a heart, our colors are vintage, our element is plant, and random is lace. So I've chosen these two pieces of pattern paper here that I'm going to use, and I'm going to cut them down. And I'm going to cut this one down to A2 size. It's going to be the first panel on my card base. And I'm just getting it in the direction that I want it. And we'll get it trimmed down. And it'll be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And this next piece, I'm going to fiddle around with it until I get it cut down to 3 3/4 by 5. And that'll be the measurement for this panel here. And I'm carefully positioning it so that I have one of the little hearts that is on this pattern paper so that it shows up. And this paper, these papers meet the elements for my 3 of my parameters. Now I'm tearing this so that I have a rustic look to it. And if you tear downward, that will give you some of the white core left. And I'm going to take that and just use my vintage photo blending brush and blend it up. I just used what was on my blending brush and then decided that I wanted to actually get some ink and make it a little darker. So I'm running and getting that. So this will meet the first 3 elements of Craft Roulette parameters. We've got card with a heart, we've got the vintage color, and it says plant, and this pattern paper actually has roses on it. So I'm blending this panel, the edges of this panel up so that they'll all match because it had a dark edge on it and I cut it off and wanted to blend that and make those match. Now I've got this little Spellbinders die here and it's got like a little lace border. I think this is the Border Trio die set. And I took it over my trash can and just wiggled it for the little bits to fall out. And I'm just tapping it into that ink that's on my desk, just kind of making it a little more vintage and rustic because it was just too clean for this style of card. So we'll just do a little cleanup. And then we'll start looking at the elements of our card. I'm taking that brush and going over it. I wanted it to be a little darker. It curled a little bit, but it'll be fine because we're going to glue it down. And I'm going to grab a card base so we can start building our card. This one was not squared up, so I'm trying to get it good and squared up. And I'm laying my paper on there, and I can see that it's a little bit wider than my piece of paper, so I'm just going to trim a smidgen off of it. And then we'll be ready to lay it down on there. So I've got my little Sweet Petunia glue press. I'm just gluing it up. And we'll get this laid down on our panel. And I've got 2 little dogs sitting on my lap as I'm doing this voiceover. So if you hear any noises, that's probably what it is. So I'm going to get this laid down, and I'm just going on the left side of it, and we're going to have some of that base paper sticking through. And I've got my little lacy piece here, and I'm thinking I'm going to put it on the side. And I start to glue it up, and then I remember a little trick that I like to use. I'll just grab a strip of paper, throw some glue down, and I'm just going to drag it through there. There's just it's so thin, the areas where you would glue, and this is a trick that works if you want to not make a mess out of your little fine die cut pieces. And the ends needed a little bit, so I'm just dabbing a little bit on there. So I've got that. I'm going to bring in some Tim Holtz Ideology. I think it's called Filled Specimen is what the package is called. And it's got a bunch of little bugs and papers and butterflies and floral elements. And I'm going to use some of that because when I make a vintage card, that's always my go-to. This is an interesting little panel. It's got like a maze on it, and in the center of the maze is a tree, I guess, which could also fall into the plant area. And it's too big because it's going to cover up that little heart element. And so I start cutting away on it to make it smaller so it won't cover up that heart element. And then we'll get it on our panel. I'm going to kind of fiddle around with it, and I'm going to bring in some more of that ephemera from that package. And I'm still thinking I don't like it, so I'm going to bring in a circle die, and I'm just going to make a circle out of it. And that's what I did. And I'm still trying to decide, is this going to work? Where do I want it? How am I going to use it? And so I'm bringing in my ephemera and kind of laying it on there and see how that will look. Trying to get an idea of what I'm going to do with this. I've got a little postage stamp and a butterfly and a floral. And I put the postage stamp aside. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to blend this with my Kitsch Flamingo blending brush to make some pink to match the rest of the card. Then I decide the brush doesn't have enough ink on it, so I go and grab the Kitsch Flamingo, and I'm just going to add some pink to this, and then it will kind of match the other pattern paper that I've got on there. And I'll just keep blending until I get it how I want it. And I'm laying it on there, and it looks like it's going to work out. So just doing a little bit more cleanup. When you use the mixed media, you got to clean so that your card base doesn't get messed up. I suppose I'm doing things out of order. I should have perhaps just created the panel first and got all my blending and everything done and assembled, and then put it on my card base, but I'm definitely doing things out of order. Now, the die-cut lace piece would have been fine, but I decided to go ahead and bring in some actual lace that I had, and I'm darkening it with a vintage photo. Now, I watch a lot of Vicky, Papillonia, I don't know how to say her last name, but anyway, she always puts lace on these mixed media cards, so I thought I'd go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to fiddle around with it and try to figure out how to make it fit on here and what would look good. And I don't use lace very much, so I'm kind of messing around with it, but I'm going to cut it down. It's got some areas on it that I like and I want to show, so I tried to cut to where those areas would show. There's like a scallop that I thought almost kind of followed the edge of the circle, and I thought it'd be neat to just lay the circle up, and it would kind of be like another circle behind it, sort of. Anyway, so I'm going to lay that down there, and I've got this floral element, and I'm going to put the floral element on top of it. Just going to get this all foamed up. And I really need to get some wider foam strips. I actually should have used my fun foam. A lot of times when I do a circle, I'll just die cut a circle fun foam and stick it on the back, but I didn't do that this time. And I'm taking that vintage photo and just darkening those edges and laying it right down on that lace. And I've got this floral element that I'm going to put on there. And you're going to watch me. I'm going to glue it up, lay it down, and then I'm going to actually pull it off because I've decided it's too dark and the floral element just disappears when you lay it on that dark circle. So I'm grabbing some Spellbinders Dune, and I've taken a smaller circle and I die cut that out, and I'm going to put a little bit of dark edges on there, and I'm going to add this to my circle. And I lay it down there, and it covers up too much of the circle. because I want that maze pattern to show because it's kind of cool paper. So I'm going to offset it. So I'm just going to put some glue on here and just offset it so you can see part of that circle. And then I'll have to add some more glue. It's stuck to my desk because I had glue on it. And get it laid down on top of this. And then I'm going to see what I'm going to do with my butterfly. And I'm going to go ahead and pop it up as well. I'm taking that brush and darkening it. It had white edges around it, so I'm just toning it down so that it'll match my card elements. And we'll use the foam tape to pop it up as well. And we'll get this laid down. And then once I do, I still feel like, you know, it needs something. And I'm just kind of looking at it and trying to decide what does it need. And I'm kind of straightening the panel. I'm bringing in some other pieces of ephemera and trying to see if that would add to it. And I'm still just studying it. And I've decided that I'm going to grab my splatter box and I'm going to put some splatter on it. In true Tim Holtz fashion, we've got all of the elements and we might as well add some mixed media to it. And so I'm going to bring in my mica spray and just spritz it. And the mica spray will give it a nice little sheen. And so I've done that. And I'm going to do, usually I'll do some blotting and just blot up some of the bigger wet spots on there. And so I just grab a paper towel and do that. And then I decide that I want to add some more splatter. So I grab the Spun Sugar light pink spray. And I'm just spritzing it real lightly. And blotting. And I'm checking it out. It's got a little bit of sheen to it, but I want a little bit more. So I'm going to go grab another one of my mica sprays, and I'm going to spray it again, and that way we'll have layers of different colors. And I'm giving it a good spritz with this. Now, I should have done this before I put it on my card base, but I didn't. And I checked the card base after I got done, and it did look okay. So right now I'm just grabbing my heat tool, and I just use my embossing tool. I don't have one of those heat tools from Tim Holtz that's where you just have light heat where you can dry, like kind of like a mini blow dryer. All I've got is this embossing tool, so I'm just using it. It works fine. And drying it up. And you can see a little bit of that sheen on the camera. And I checked my card base, it was good and clean. So that finishes off my card. I hope you like it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.